Hey YouTube. So I wanted to bring up, I guess a couple things in this video. So this last week I was out hunting in Indiana with my dad. And I have a couple of things that I wanted to bring up about that hunting experience. So I want to say first and foremost that was an awesome hunt for whitetail deer. Um, I've never actually personally hunted in Indiana, even though I grew up with my dad being a hunter in Indiana. So my whole life, he started hunting when he was about 13 years old. Um, but there was the big thing that I wanted to talk about today, I guess, is the idea of ethical hunting. And I'm sure that there's going to be debate about this. It's kind of a weird topic, I guess, in the hunting community. I think a lot more people are probably a little bit more um, overconfident in their abilities, and I don't know. I just wanted to address that because I came up. I wasn't thinking about ethics when this happened, but let me share the scenario. So, all week, I had seen deer. We did tree stand hunting on, it was about 120 acres, private property. There was 3 different tree stands up in that area. And from the first day, or like the first evening, because we started late on the first day. From that first evening, we were seeing deer. It's pre-rut, and so the bucks are moving around. They're trying to find doe. Does are kind of changing their habits from what I'm, looking up in the science anyway. They're coming out of their normal habits, and same with bucks. So it's a great week that I'd say that I really loved that week, the first week of November, and I had seen deer basically throughout the whole week. I think there was only one day, one full day where we didn't see deer, or at least I didn't see deer. But the only time that I actually had a shot opportunity was the very last evening of that hunt. So like I had an evening, and then that next morning was my last chance to hunt before we were done. I didn't have another evening after that. So, but that evening, I was sitting in this tree stand, and I was looking out into this field, and try and visualize this. The field, the far edge of the field where there's like some grass. The first bit of grass is at about 53 yards, 54 yards, roughly. And then just off to the right, there's a tree line. So that there's like right in front of me, off to my right, there is a little path, and then there's like a tree line with a split in that tree line, and then another path. So that field directly out in front of me basically leads down both of those paths. And the far side of that far path for me is 40 yards. So I see 4 doe come out into that field. Now, if you guys know about like what I've been doing, I have a heavy arrow setup, and what I was shooting in this scenario for this deer hunt was a 640 grain arrow. Now, before any of you attack me, I don't have an arrow setup that is lighter than that I trust. I have lighter arrows, but I do not trust them. That was the whole reason I started getting into heavy arrows. So with my sight and with the feet per second that I have available, my sights only go out to like the actual mark is 40 is my lowest pin. And I had like one or two of the does actually did come within, like, I think around 45 yards roughly. Great lighting and everything. I basically, what I'm saying is I could have taken a shot. I chose not to because I've never shot that far with my heavy arrows. Um, at one moment, and this was still legal shooting time, shooting light, but at one moment, when it got just dark enough, those doe came out of that field in front of me and walked down the far lane on the far side of it, and it was at 40 yards. They were walking right through that shooting lane. So I knew that I had a chance. So I went ahead and I drew back. And what I ran into is I could not see my peep sight. And that's obviously a big, especially for somebody that's never shot at a deer before, that was a huge problem. If I would have been able to draw back and see that peep sight, because I was able to see my sights and the deer. I was able to see that good enough, and I felt confident with a shot. I could see the pins, I could see the deer, all that was good, but I could not see the peep. Now, that immediately made me freak out. That's actually when I started kind of shaking, was because, I'm almost anticipating a shot. Like, I want to take a shot, but I chose not to. And I remember not thinking about morals and stuff in that moment. But what I thought of is, I cannot see my peep. I do not have a good shot. I don't know how far off this is going to be. And I even feel pretty confident at 40 yards, actually. I don't have the best groups, but it's I would have been fine actually taking a 40-yard shot. I felt confident in that, but I chose not to. The only thing that I've ever harvested with my bow is a turkey, and that was a completely different situation. That was an easy shot, really. I was within 20 yards of that turkey, so that was completely different scenario. But my only moment when I had a shot at those deer, I could not see my peep. The reason I bring this up is because, maybe in the future, well, first off, I'm going to get rid of that peep sight. That was one thing that I wanted to bring up, is I'm going to get rid of that peep sight just entirely. And I know that a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, you can use a bigger diameter. I don't know the science behind all that, but the problem for me as a bow hunter, is if I can't depend on my immediate, directly in front of my eye sight, then there's no point in using that system. I'll keep my sights, and I can see the animal just fine in those low light conditions. But the peep was useless. And that peep is what I depend on to have an accurate shot. It works great in the daylight. I have no issue in the daylight with seeing that. But I've been looking online about those nose buttons and the kisser button and everything, and I am going to put that on my bow, and I'm going to try that out, because I am more of a person based off of feel anyway. All this aside, I lost my opportunity to shoot because I did not feel confident. I think that is what makes, an ethical hunter, is somebody who, if you have any shadow of a doubt that you cannot make a clean shot, I don't think that you should shoot. And I don't care what anybody says about that. And, there may be situations where, you can practice on shots and you feel confident that you can practice, but maybe you aren't 100% confident in that shot. There's little, ways around that mindset, I guess, but I did not feel confident. I chose not to take the shot when I could have. And I very well could have harvested a big fucking doe. I very well could have. But I'm just not taking the chance. I'm not doing it. And that kind of leads me back to my elk hunt earlier in the year, where this was the closest that I've ever been to elk. And this is the closest that I've ever had a shot opportunity. And I had a very now, I wasn't aiming at anything in this moment, but I thought that there may be, I was looking down a shot lane that, the shot lane itself probably goes 50, 70 yards. But there was an elk that was relatively close to me off to my right, and I thought it was going to come around the corner into that shot lane. So I actually went ahead and drew back. And I had, where are they at? I had this sight on. And one thing that I noticed, and I don't use a battery, you can't use a battery in Colorado. But one thing that I noticed is that I was getting to the point where I couldn't see these pins anymore in that low light condition. The EZV has completely eliminated that for me, by the way. When I was on that deer hunt, I could see my sight just fine. I could see the black marks on that. That wasn't an issue at all. But I did notice that again, in that sort of low light condition, and yes, it was still legal hunting light, but I could not see my peep in that situation too. And I also was having problems seeing my pins. So I twice now, when I have actually had the opportunity to potentially take a shot at something, my equipment has not been good. And it has kept me from having the confidence. You know, you guys have been watching my videos, and you know that I have, like, you know, I started tuning my own bow. I started making my own arrows. So all of that, I felt tremendously confident in my ability to shoot anything with the arrow setup that I have and the way that my bow was tuned. That all was perfectly fine. The bow shoots great. The arrows come off great, and they're extremely freaking accurate. But if again, I have this issue with my sights. There's two scenarios. I could have harvested an elk and I could have harvested a deer this year. And I missed out on those opportunities because I did not like my setup. I don't care what anybody says about what's the best thing to use. Do not listen to other people when they tell you, oh, use this sight. Oh, use this peep. Oh, you know, don't pay attention to other people. Now, you can have some guidance. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, especially with somebody who knows their stuff. Somebody like an actual professional that has been shooting a bow for 20 years and has harvested many animals, you know, cool. Listen to them. They have a good amount of information. They've probably lost animals. They've probably wounded animals. And not that that's particularly a good thing, but they have that good and bad experience. So they can kind of try and lead you down the right path. But if you are not confident in something, 100%, change it. Do not wait. Change it. Take the time to make that thing better, and you will become a more ethical, truly ethical, and a better hunter. You will harvest more animals. So I guess the whole point of this kind of came down to ethics. I think ethics is debated, but ultimately the way that I feel about it is if you do not feel at least close to 100% confident that if you take a shot right now, you are going to harvest, I think that comes down to the individual and their equipment and how confident they are with it. But ethics does not, in my opinion, come down to technically shot placement, like where you shoot on an animal. Like, a lot of people have this idea that if you shoot right above the shoulder, that's not an ethical shot. I disagree with that, in my own personal opinion. But somebody who has a certain arrow setup, yeah, they may not be able to get through that shoulder, but somebody else that does and feels more confident that they can get into the vitals no matter what they hit, if they choose to make that shot, I think that's an ethical shot. That's just my personal opinion. So you can't tell somebody else what is an ethical shot. You just can't, because everybody's different. And I think we all need to take that into consideration whenever we are setting up our own stuff. And somebody who doesn't understand their equipment has no right to tell somebody else what an ethical shot is supposed to be or what it looks like. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you guys for watching my videos. If you do, I really appreciate it. Give this a like. If you agree, leave a comment down below. We can debate this subject. This is, in my opinion, a debatable subject. I do not think that there is any one way to being an ethical hunter. I think everybody has their own ways of becoming an ethical hunter. But and please subscribe. I'm almost I am so close. I'm 4 subscribers away from getting to 50 subscribers so I can start doing live streams, and I'll be able to like make arrows on live stream. I would like to tan my hides. I have a couple hides now that I'd like to do some leather smithing, and I'd like to do that on a live stream. So if you're interested in that stuff, please subscribe. Please like this video, comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.